Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This is the 16th or the 17th, depending on your reckoning, of the 11th month and a Sabbath. I apologize, I had forgotten which one it was for a moment. But we were continuing on in our reading of 4th Ezra on chapter 5, and we're actually on verse 14 with the conclusion of the vision. All right, it's the 15th or the 16th, depending on your reckoning. Thank you. All right, so continuing here, it says, Then I awakened, and my body shuddered violently, and my inner being was troubled, so that it fainted. So the Melech that was come to talk with me held me up, or with me held me, comforted and strengthened me, and set me upon my feet. And in the second night it came to pass that Phaltiel, the captain of the people, came to me, saying, Where have you been, and why is your countenance so heavy? Know you not that Israel is committed to you in the land of their captivity? Rise up then and eat bread, and forsake us not, as the shepherd that leaves his flock in the hands of cruel wolves. Then I said to him, Depart from me, and come not nigh me 7 yamim, and then you may come to me. And he heard what I said, and went from me. And so I fasted 7 yamim, mourning or lamenting and weeping, just as Oriel the Melech commanded me. And then we probably should have read that last time. I apologize. But here's the second vision after he was obedient. It says Ezra reiterates his complaints of Yahuwah's. I, I don't know why that title says that, but our Creator does no wrong, so I'm just going to leave that there. Sorry. He's explaining why he's upset. And after 7 yamim, so it was, that the thoughts of my heart were very grievous to me again, and my inner being recovered the ruach of comprehension. And I began to speak words in the presence of the Most High Yahuwah again. And I said, O sovereign, Yahuwah that bears rule, of every wood of the earth and of all the trees thereof, you have chosen for yourself only one vine. And the lands of the whole world, you have chosen for yourself one region. And of all the flowers of the world, you have chosen for yourself one lily. And from all the depths of the sea, you have filled for yourself one river. And of all built cities, you have set apart and made Kadosh Zion to yourself. And from all the fowls that are created, you have named for yourself one dove. And from all the cattle that you made, you have provided for yourself one lamb. And from all the multitudes of people, you have gotten for yourself one people. And to this people, whom you loved, you gave a Torah that is approved by all. And now, Yahuwah, why have you given this one people over to the many? And upon the one root have you prepared others? And why have you scattered your only one people among many? And they which did gainsay your promises, and believed not your covenants, have trodden down on those who believed your covenants. If you hate your people so much, should you punish them with your own, or you should punish them with your own hands. Now when I had spoken these words, the Melech who had come to me the previous time was sent to me. And he said to me, Hear me, and I will instruct you. Hearken to the words that I say, and I shall tell you more. And I said, Speak on, my master. Then said he to me, Why are you sore troubled in your mind for Yisrael's sake? Do you love that people more than he that made them? And I said, No, my master, but because of my grief I have spoken. For every hour I suffer agonies of heart, while I labor to understand and comprehend the way of the Most High Yahuwah, and to search out part of his righteous arbitration. And he said to me, You cannot. And I said, Why not, my master? Why then was I born? Or why was not my mother's womb then my grave, that I might not see the travail of Yaakov and the wearisome toil of the people of Israel? And he said to me, Count up for me the things that are not yet come, and gather to me the scattered raindrops, and make the flowers bloom again for me that are withered. Open for me the places that are closed, and bring for me the winds that are in them, that are shut up in them. Show me the image of a voice, and then I will declare to you the travail that you labor to know and comprehend. And I said, Sovereign Yahuwah that bears rule, who may know these things, but he that has not his dwelling with men? As for me, I am unprudent. How may I speak of these things whereof you ask me? Then said he to me, Like as you cannot do one of these things that I have spoken of, even so you cannot discover my righteous arbitration, or the end of my love that I have promised to my people. And I said, Behold, Yahuwah, yet are you nigh to them that be reserved till the end. And what shall they do that have been before us, or we that be now, or they that shall come after us? I want to take a moment here. If you remember when our Mashiach was walking with his taught ones, he said, Prosperous are your eyes that see and your ears that hear, because many have desired to see and hear what you do, but they've not been able. The truth was not fully revealed to his children until he came. And so these things weren't made completely known. And this is why he's having these questions and this anxiousness about what's going on. It's not because we're special that we have the answers to these things, but it's because he came and gave the truth at the appointed time that he chose. So when it says that his arbitration and why there's long periods between the righteous and the wicked, and there's a separation from the reward, we've learned those in the course of time with the revelation he gave to his emissaries. But before then, it's not known. So that's it's kind of, we're looking at this from the rearview mirror. It's easier to see these things, but at the time, he would have only had the things that he was familiar with. None of the renewed covenant writings, and even the things that they had, it wasn't until he was endowed with the Ruach and dictated them to scribes, as we'll read later on, that the people were even given a complete version of the scriptures that they had again. So it's rather interesting. But do keep that in mind as we read here, okay? Verse 42. And he said to me, I will liken my arbitration to a circle, just as there is no slackness on those who are last, even so there is no haste of the first. Then I answered and said, Could you not create it at one time those who have been, and those who are, and those who will be, that you might show your righteous arbitration the sooner? Then answered he me and said, The creature cannot make more haste than the Creator, neither may the world hold them all at once, or all at one time, those that have been created in it. And I said, As you have said to your servant, that you will certainly give existence to one, or at one time, to your creation. If therefore all creatures will live at one time, and the creation will sustain them, it might even now be able to support all of them present at one time. And he said to me, Ask the womb of a woman, and say to it, if you bring forth 10 children, why one after another? Request it therefore to bring forth 10 children at one time. And I said, it cannot, but must do it by distance of time. Then said he to me, even so have I given the womb of the earth, or eretz, to those who are to be sown in it in their times. And right here is a reference to the eretz being like a womb or a mother. It's also whenever you have like an egg is given the feminine suffixes and the feminine endings when you add things to it. The same thing with a house or a car, anything that encompasses a man and supports them, protects them, nourishes, or whatever a house or a mother would do, it has the same application there. But this is the same thing he's equating with the entire world that we live in. And then that is like Sister or Akodi Pearl has mentioned, individuals have taken that and started worshiping Mother Earth, which is not to be done. But that's not what this is trying to be about. So to continue, verse 49, it says, for like as a young child does not bring forth the things that belong to the aged, and a woman who has become old does not bring forth any longer, even so have I organized the world which I created. And I asked and said, seeing you have now given me the way, I will proceed to speak before you. Is our mother, of whom you have told me, still young, or is she now approaching old age? So you see, he asked the question about why we couldn't all exist at once, and then he gives them the parable and explains, like, as a woman has children, so he's created this existence. So taking that comprehension, he now asks, all right, well, where are we at? Is our mother old, or is she still in childbearing times? To get a sense of where they were in his story. And he answered me and said, ask a woman who bears children, and she shall tell you. Say to her, why are they whom you have borne or have now brought forth not like those that were before, but smaller of stature? And she herself shall answer you, that they be born, or that they that be born in the strength of youth are of one fashion, and they that are born in the time of age, when the womb fails, are different. Consider you therefore also how that you and your contemporaries are smaller in stature than those that were before you. And those who come after you will be smaller than you, as the creatures which now begin to be old, and have passed over the strength of youth. Then said I, Yahuwah, I beseech you, if I have found favor in your sight, show your servant through whom you are going to visit your creation. So this is by whom Yahuwah is going, or through whom Yahuwah is going to visit his creation. And this is interesting. And he said to me, at the beginning of the circle of the earth, or Eretz, at first by the son of Adam, and afterwards I myself. For the Eretz and the lands were created, and before the portals of the world were in place, and before the assembled winds blew, and before the rumblings of thunder sounded, and before the flashes of lightning shone, and before the foundations of paradise were laid, and before the beautiful flowers were seen, and before the powers of movement were established, and before the innumerable hosts of Melachim were gathered together, and before the heights of the air were lifted up, and before the measures of the firmaments were named. That's interesting. It has it plural in Irenaeus' Against Heresies and in Yeshayahu's It's an apocryphal writing known as the Assumption or Ascension of Yeshayahu, where it records his martyrdom. It mentions there's 7 firmaments. I don't know too much more about it, but there are 2 witnesses, and here it mentions it plural, so I thought I'd point that out. And before the measures of the firmaments were named, and before the footstool of Zion was established, or ever the chimneys in Zion were hot, and before the present years were reckoned, and or ever the inventions of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed that have gathered belief for a treasure, then did I plan these things, and they were all made through me alone, and not through another, just as the end shall come through me, and not through another. Then I answered and said, what shall be the dividing of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first age and the beginning of the age that follows? All right, chapter 6, verse 7 says, then I answered and said, what shall be the dividing of the times, or when shall be the end of the first age and the beginning of the age that follows? And he said to me, from Abraham to Yitzhak, when Yaakov and Esau were born of him, for Yaakov's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of this age, and Yaakov is the beginning of the age that follows. I don't know if I can't speak to the intention of Ezra and what he was meaning by that. If he meant like the age that we were in this world and then the world to come would be the ever after that he had in mind. But the question that was being answered, he says, what shall be the dividing of the times? That's one. Or when shall be the end of the first age and the beginning of the age that follows? So first he's given the dividing of times into the 3 patriarchs, because you had Abraham, which was the pre-sojourning days, or Yamim of the children, with the promises and the covenant until they were given the covenant at Mount Sinai and brought into the land. And then that would have been culminating in Yitzhak, who stayed in the land the whole time, born on the 15th of the 3rd month. And then that transfer from Yitzhak to Yaakov is that next age when our Mashiach would have came and went out to labor for his children outside of the land. So that's a picture here of what's being spoken of, but there's also the idea of the end of this world and the beginning of the world to come. There's different layers there, but I thought that was interesting and I wanted to point it out. So continuing on verse 9, it says, for Esau is the end of this age, and Yaakov is the beginning of that, or of the age that follows. For the beginning of a man is his hand, and the end of a man is his heel. Between the heel and the hand, seek for nothing else. Ezra. I answered then and said, Yahuwah that bears rule. If I have found in or favor in your sight, I beseech you, show your servant the end of your signs, which you have shown me part of the previous night. So he answered and said to me, stand up upon your feet and hear a mighty sounding voice. And it shall be that, as it were, a great motion while the voice is speaking, but the place where you stand shall not be moved. And therefore, when it speaks, be not afraid, for the word concerns the end, and the foundation of the Eretz will understand that the words concerns them. And why? Because the words of these things trembles and is moved, for they know that the end of these things must be changed, or that the end of these things must be changed. If you remember, this is alluding to the second shaking of the Shamayim and the Eretz, in which those that are unshaken will remain. And it says, "And it happened that when I had heard this, I stood upon my feet and hearkened, and behold, there was a voice that spoke, and the sound of it was like the sound of many waters. And it said, Behold, the Yamim are coming, and it shall be that when I draw near to visit the inhabitants of the Eretz, and when I begin to make inquisition of the doers of iniquity, the penalty of what they have hurt unrighteously with their unrighteousness, and when the humiliation of Zion shall be fulfilled, and when the seal is placed upon the age which is about to pass away, then I will show these signs. The books shall be opened before the firmament, and all shall see it together. And the children of a year old shall speak with their voices, and women with child shall bring forth premature children of 3 or 4 months old, and they shall exist and be raised up. And the sown places shall suddenly appear unsown, and the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. And the shofar shall sound aloud, and when every man hears, they shall be suddenly terrified. At that time, friends fight one against another like enemies, and the Eretz and those who inhabit it shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountain shall stand still, so that for 3 hours they shall not run. And it shall be that whosoever remains from all these that I have foretold you shall escape and see my deliverance and the end of your world." There's a lot there. If you pick apart the parables, we can probably do that sometime, but I'm going to finish reading the chapter real quick, okay? "And the men that are received shall see it, who have not tasted death from their birth, and the heart of the inhabitants shall be changed and converted to a different ruach. For evil shall be blotted out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for belief, trustworthiness shall flourish, corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which has been so long without fruit, shall be revealed and declared. While he spoke to me, behold, little by little the place where I was standing began to rock to and fro. And he said to me, I am come to show you the time of the night to come. If you will pray yet more and fast 7 Yamim again, I shall declare you greater things by Yom than I have heard. Or it's probably meant than you have already heard, right? And right here, if you recall, the night is when the sun is cut off, and the Shamayim Yerushalayim in the night is supposed to be raining. It says, because your voice is surely heard before the Most High Yahuwah, for the Almighty has seen your righteous dealing. He has seen also your chastity, which you have maintained from your youth. And therefore he has sent me to show you all these things, and to say to you, believe and be of Tob comfort, and fear not. And do not be quick to think vain thoughts concerning the former things, lest you be hasty concerning the latter times. This one right here is very important. It mentions in Ecclesiasticus that, I'm going to paraphrase, but it mentions that a board can be put so well secure in a building that it can't be shaken by an earthquake. And a man can be so trained to use reason and insight that he can't be turned from the truth no matter what calamity is happening, but that he'll always have a sound mind. it goes on to say that those that allow it to, their stupid opinions can make them timid and not thinking clearly when disasters happen. That's very same thing as what Kepha alludes to when he says that because men have been a long time unattended, like a field that's left uncultivated, they have a lot of noxious opinions like weeds that need to be pulled out and plucked up by the roots. So this is the same thing here. We need to not be too quick concerning these things and not be hasty about what it's trying to tell us, but to learn accurately what they mean so that we can clearly see what will be. Just one moment. Continuing real quick on verse 32. I had to reshare my screen. I apologize. It says, because your voice is surely heard before the Most High Yahuwah, for the Almighty has seen your righteous dealing. He has seen also your chastity, which you have maintained from your youth. And therefore he has sent me to show you all these things, and to say to you, believe and be of Tob comfort and fear not. And do not be quick to think vain thoughts concerning the former things, lest you be hasty concerning the latter times. So a direct correlation between the things that went before and what would come after. So thank you for that. We're going to head pause and we'll go through that in more detail in just a moment.